Trucker Dump, episode 155. Got a whopper of a show today for you, but once again, there's no main topic. I promise this isn't a new trend, and I've got some good things lined up for the next few episodes. But for now, there's a fairly long intro where I talk about my company's hazmat issues, per diem tax breaks, adverse driving conditions, other trucking podcasts, and driving a fancy car. In the news segment, we've got more truck recalls, yet another safety blitz, bridges reopening, toll plazas closing, rising driver pay, new insights into driver shortages and women's effect on it, and what to do if you don't pass your DOT physical. Also, our governments are still figuring out new ways to tax truckers more. We've got more COVID extensions, of course. There's proposed legislation on speed limiters, sleep apnea, liability insurance, and infrastructure, all while putting the kibosh on the Highway Trust Fund. Huh? How's that work? Oh, and let's not forget, teaming with a robot. On a lighter note, Pilot Flying J is giving away prizes this summer. There's a popular movie about truckers on Netflix. And in not so light news, a fleet owner has a controversial idea on how to increase safety. I'll also announce the winners of the Trace tablet and the $50 for the Trucker Grove contest. And we'll hear from you on the topics of truck parking, speed limiters, the VMT tax, Walmart reefers, a longtime trucker retiring, and we'll catch up with the past interviewee and see what he's up to. This episode of Trucker Dump is sponsored by Volvo Trucks.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by AboutTruckDriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Hey, Trucker Dumpers, how the heck are you? You know, I don't know about you, but I am enjoying the heck out of the fact that all these restrictions from COVID are being, released and, things are opening back up, don't have to wear masks everywhere all the time, and really pumped about that. And of course, there's a new variant right around the corner that's supposed to be really bad, especially they're even calling a hotspot here in Missouri. Great. Well, that was short-lived. All I got to say about that is if you are the praying type, start praying. And if you're one of those kind of people who wishes good vibes out into the world, heck, do that. Because, hey, I'm desperate at this point. Just whatever will help the situation. Let's get through this COVID crap. Get it gone completely. I never want to say that word again, but I have a feeling we will be. Hey, you know what would be freaking awesome right now? If new listeners knew who the heck I was. I've just been blabbing on and forgot all about you. Sorry. Longtime listeners know my name is Todd McCann. I am the host of this here Trucker Dump podcast. I am a 24-year trucker. 22 of those was over the road, and the last 2 years I have been LTL. That's less than truckload. I never reveal who I work for, so don't ask. Let's see. Well, what else do I do? I have 2 trucking ebooks. One is called How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job, and the other is called Trucking Life. Both are really good for anybody new to the industry who would like to get a head start and kind of get a feel for what you're getting into. It's especially good for people who have not yet gotten into the industry because, hey, why waste your money, your time, and your effort going to driving school if the lifestyle does not suit you? Get that Trucking Life book, and, hey, if you think you might like it, then go on and get the other book. But hey, guess what? You can get them both for cheaper. 25% off if you go to abouttruckdriving.com. You can get both of those ebooks for $14.98, I believe is the price. And Trucking Life also includes a free audiobook that is 9.25 hours. So if you can stand my voice for 9.25 hours, look at the value you're getting. If not, well, you're just into self-torture, I guess. So anyway, go to abouttruckdriving.com and check that out. Or if you just want the books individually, you can go to Amazon or iBooks or wherever you get your ebooks. Anyway, boy, I have been super busy. This intro is going to be a bit long because I've got a lot of stuff that's been going on. I want to share a little bit of it with you before we get into the news. First up, I had something really cool happen. I got to drive a BMW 330. Now, the weird situation is you think I just went out, and borrowed it from a friend or, a friend let me drive it or something like that. But no, what had happened was I went to become a safety trainer. My company asked me to be a safety trainer, me and my main union steward. We went up to Kansas City for a 3-day class, and they were supposed to rent us a Corolla. That's what the information we got in the email said, supposed to be a Toyota Corolla or similar. Well, my friend Jerry, the union steward, was the one who picked it up. And when he was there, they were having some issues. They were, holding him up a little bit. So they upgraded him to a BMW 330. So that was pretty darn sweet. We could have been stuck in a Corolla, which is a nice vehicle, but it's no BMW. I got to tell you, though, that thing could get you in trouble. I don't know what it is about it. It's so smooth. I caught myself, I'm not a big speeder, but I caught myself going like 84 mile an hour a couple of times. And Jerry is a stickler for speeding, and he never said a word because he didn't even realize we were going that fast. So you can get yourself in a lot of trouble, one of those, fancy pants luxury vehicles. But anyway, it was pretty cool, and he didn't want to drive it, which kind of surprised me, but he just let me drive all the 3 days we were up there. So anyway, that was pretty darn cool. Probably never happen again because, hey, who can afford a BMW? Not this guy. But you know what isn't cool? I have been doing a lot of stuff with the union. I work for a LTL. We're unionized, and I am a alternate steward, in case you are unaware of that. And part of why I wanted to be a safety trainer was because it has to do with hazmat. And my company, I'm just going to be honest, I'm not going to name them, but they suck at hazmat. Horrible, horrible, horrible. I've talked to some of the other LTL carriers online and stuff, drivers from there, and they don't seem to have a problem with it. But our company is horrible at it. I mean, we found like between 11 of us drivers who are reporting, I've got them all reporting back to me, and I'm keeping a big long spreadsheet because, hey, that's what geeks do. And, I think within 4 months, I had like 67 incidents of improper placarding, stacking freight on top of hazmat, which is illegal, not properly bracing it or blocking it in the trailer, or, things like leaving it on the back of the trailer, like right by the trailer door, which, by the way, leaving it by the trailer door does not count as blocking and bracing it. The way I understand it, if you block and brace hazmat with other pallets and things like that, as long as it can't move, it is considered blocked and braced. But you can't just set it on the back because, hey, what if you open that trailer door and it comes flying out at you? So anyway, just a little tip for hazmat there. But anyway, we're having a lot of these issues. If you are an LTL carrier or even an over-the-road carrier, don't make a difference. I want to know if your company has problems with hazmat. Please write in and tell me about this. truckerdump@gmail.com. I'm fighting this tooth and nail. I've started, turned in this spreadsheet I have to the bigwigs. I'm going to take it on up the ladder. I'm filing union grievances about it and everything, trying to get this worked out. Cause these hazmat guidelines are not just for kicks and giggles. They are important. It tells first responders how to handle a situation. What if they show up to one of our terminals, there's a fire, and they start trying to put out an empty trailer because it shows it's got flammable placards on it, but it's empty. They're wasting their time. How about focusing on what's important, which is that trailer over there that has the flammable on them that doesn't have any placards? Anyway, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but just a little hazmat thing here, in case you're new to hazmat. When a trailer gets loaded, that is when the hazmat is supposed to go on. Now, they do kind of give you a little leeway, like if you're still loading the trailer, for instance, you put some flammable on there and then you're going to add some corrosive later on. There's no sense in going and putting flammable on there, then coming back in, loading the corrosive, and then changing it to dangerous or something like that. It's kind of silly. But, as long as you're actively working on a trailer and you're loading it, you don't have to placard it. But as soon as that trailer closes, or if you walk away from it for the night and you're going to come back and finish loading it that night, whatever's on that trailer has to be placarded properly. Even if it's going to sit out in your yard for 3 or 4 days. It don't matter. It has to be placarded properly and quickly, really promptly. Anyway, that's one thing my company is really bad at. And like I said before, you are not supposed to stack anything on hazmat or above hazmat. So, if you want to stack up on load bars or something like that and put a pallet above hazmat, can't do it. There's lots of other hazmat things going on, but I'll just keep it short for now. Yeah, short. That's what I'm doing. Wow. All right. Let's move on to, we were talking about taxes recently, and it got me thinking, have the rules changed again? I mean, there for a long time, company drivers and owner operators alike could claim the per diem for their taxes, right? Like we could claim the, whatever it was, $66 a day, which was $52.80 we could actually claim because it was 80%. I don't know, something weird like that. Anyway, owner operators and company drivers used to be able to do that. But with the Trump tax changes, they did change that. I've talked about this in past episodes where they changed it, like I said, and the standard deduction went way up for us company drivers. So I actually benefited by not being able to claim all that per diem and that, itemize my deductions and all that crap. But anyway, I was thinking, is that still in effect? Or can company drivers now claim the per diem? And I found this article on atbs.com. They are a factoring company, I believe. You can check out the link in the show notes. And it goes into detail about this. It's a pretty good article, explains it really in really simple terms. But basically, you're a company driver. You pretty much can't claim the per diem anymore still. So, yeah, owner operators, you can still claim all that stuff. So anyway, I just thought I would clear that up because I don't think I made it quite clear enough when we were talking about this in a past episode. Another thing I need to clarify is the adverse driving conditions part of your e-log. I talked about this when I was talking about how I got in trouble with my company for, using off-duty PC when I should have used adverse driving conditions. And I remember I mentioned that, for adverse driving conditions, it's for like, if you're running into sleet, hail, snow, ice, wind, whatever it is, you can use it for that. And, even in an accident or something like that, you can use it. But in a weird twist, I found this actually from the FMCSA, the actual rules from the FMCSA. Boy, it took me a long time to find this, but I actually learned that this doesn't qualify for breakdown. So if you break down on the side of the road, that doesn't count. You can't use adverse driving conditions for that one. Now, I was thinking, that's weird because, the whole idea of the adverse driving conditions is you can use it for an unforeseeable event. And again, rain or snow or something like that. If you take off in that weather, knowing that it's raining or it's snowing or the wind's blowing super hard and you can't make it, you cannot use the adverse driving conditions. It's only something that surprises you. You were not expecting it. So, hey, maybe that's maybe if you're feeling brave, you don't look at the Weather Channel in the winter. Give you, plausible deniability, I guess. But anyway, so I thought, well, hey, a breakdown, when your truck breaks down, that's unforeseeable. Well, I guess they don't look at it that way. So anyway, that is a stipulation in the FMCSA guidelines that you cannot use breakdown or you cannot use adverse driving conditions to get yourself out of a bind if you break down. You are just screwed on that one. You're probably just going to have to use your off-duty PC and go to the nearest safe haven. But anyway, again, I thought that would clear that one up. And one last thing before we get into the news. Of course, we'll be starting out with recalls, right? One last thing I wanted to point out is, I mentioned in the last podcast that I've kind of spaced these out a little bit. I'm not putting out as many podcasts as I used to, which is pretty sad because they were pretty sparing as, even before, but they really are now. So, hey, if you need your trucking fix, there is an article over here on Whelp Magazine. That's whelpmagazine.com, link in the show notes. And there is an article called 20 Best Trucking Podcasts of 2021. And they listed the Trucker Dump podcast in there. I was very pleased to be on there. But there are a bunch more. And that's what I wanted to point out, that there have been a lot of trucking podcasts come out that I have never even heard of. They mentioned one called Truck and Hustle, Copy Southbound podcast, Bulk Loads podcast, Trucking for Millennials, and then of course there's Overdrive Radio, which I've mentioned on here before. That's always a good one. The Lead Pedal podcast for truckers. I've mentioned that one before on there, but Road Legends, Transport Topics has their own. We're always mentioning them. So there's lots of options here. Steve Summers, if you're a fan of his, he has a podcast version of his overnight drive. Just lots of different options here. There's one for Hot Shots even. Hot Shot Dave Talks Trucking. So, if you're a hot shotter, that'd be a good one for you. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that, hey, maybe Trucker Dump is not filling the bill because I just don't kick out enough podcasts. But hey, there are lots of other options out there, and these are just 20 of them that mentioned. There have been a lot of podcasts in the trucking industry coming out recently, but this is a good place to start. So again, that's whelpmagazine.com, and you can check out the link in the show notes. And thanks to Whelp Magazine for listing me in this elite group. Yeah, let's go with the word elite. What the heck? All right, on with the news. Wow, how do you like that? 26 some minutes into the podcast before we even get to the news. Well, like I said, it's going to be a long show. I keep saying that. You probably ought to make a drinking game out of this. Although don't do that if you're driving. But hey, I've already said long show twice or 3 times now, I guess. So don't drink and drive. Okay, let's not make it a drinking game. All right, let's move on to the news. All right, we got a little handful of these recalls here, so let's just get to it. I really suck at mechanical stuff, so it's probably just better for me to read a lot of this to you, especially the directions as to what's going on. Not the directions, the description. Wow, speaking really well today. Way to go, Todd. Anyway, one thing I did notice is Volvo, our longtime sponsor, keeps escaping these recalls. I don't know what's going on, but we've had them for Peterbilt. We've had them for International, Mack, who else? Daimler, the Freightliners and the Western Stars, but it's been a while since we saw anything from Volvo. So congratulations, Volvo. Keep up the good work. But for now, let's concentrate on international trucks. Apparently about almost 1,800 international trucks have an issue that could cause a fuel leak. 2018, 2019 international Durastar and Workstar models, and 2019 and 2021 international HV and MV models, as well as 2019 through 2021 IC Bus RE models, which I'm not sure what that is. Here's what's wrong with them. Navstar says the sealing washer in the affected trucks may not seat correctly in the pilot boreholes, allowing the high pressure fuel rail assembly to leak. Wow. I can't even make it sound like I know what I'm talking about when I'm reading it. Anyway, well, there's a link in the show notes for all of these. They are all Overdrive Online. No, the first 2 are overdriveonline.com, and the second one is Freight Waves. The third article is Freight Waves. Anyway, all the links for these will be in the show notes. You can get the details of the recall numbers and all that good junk. Also, PACCAR has a small, tiny little, just 13 of the Peterbilt 348s and 579s have a spring brake chamber, may have been assembled incorrectly. So, could cause a loss of pressure there. Anyway, I doubt you're one of the 13. Let's just say that. But anyway, they'll contact you if, PACCAR will contact you if you are one of those unlucky 13. Hey, I guess that number's appropriate. Anyway, let's move on to the Freightliner Cascadia. About 80,000 of these bad boys is affected. Whew. That's about 80,000 total. The first one is for Cascadia's, about 75,000 trucks, 2017 to 2022 models equipped with halogen headlight assemblies. Apparently the halogen headlight bulb may dislodge during replacement and contact other vehicle components, which could possibly cause them to melt, which will make your headlights not work. That's not a good thing. Also, Daimler has a problem. Let's see. Tie rod clamps may be loose, which could result in loose tie rod ends that could break or detach, possibly causing a loss of steering. Again, as I've so wisely pointed out, as a mechanical gearhead myself, steering wheels are important. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of units affected here. They're both Western Star and Freightliner. Not going to go into it. Just check out the link in the show notes because, man, that's a long list right there. Anyway, that particular issue with the tie rods is about 8,000 units itself. So let's move on to another one this is the FreightWaves article. This is another Daimler one. This one affects 122,000 Freightliner and Western Star trucks. The battery terminal cable may break, resulting in a loss of electrical power, followed by an engine stall. Again, there is a variety of Western Stars and Freightliner Cascadias here, so just be sure to go and check out the link in the show notes for all three of these articles. Lickety split, we are done with recalls. Woohoo! Oh wait, I have a sound effect for that. Aw, aren't kids great? They're even better when they're somebody else's kids. No, the evil overlord and I chose not to have kids. Very selfish people we are. So I guess that's kind of what happens to you when you spend most of your life in a truck and don't feel like raising kids in a truck. For those of you who don't know, the evil overlord was my co-driver for about 9 years, and she had enough. Got out quite a few years ago. And never coming back, apparently. According to what she says, she's thought about it every now and then, quickly poo-poos that idea away. Anyway, let's get back to the news. And I am a big fat liar because, well, we're not quite done with recalls yet. All right. Hang on, kids. This one is at least not about trucks. It's about CPAP machines. Yep, you may have heard about this already. This is a recall on a Philips CPAP machine. Now, if you go to this link in the show notes, there's a link in here that lists all affected devices. Not going to go into all that because this may not affect a lot of you. But anyway, what this recall is basically there's a foam around the device. It's designed to keep it from shaking and vibrating and stuff like that, making noise. And, some of that foam can chip off and get into the air path, into the pathway for your air, and basically you're sucking it in at night, and it's causing people to be sick and things like that. They say it affects a small number of the devices, 0.03% in 2020, but they've had more than 1,200 complaints and more than 100 injuries reported. So, again, you might want to just check out this article and see if your device is affected. Again, these are made by Philips, if that's your brand. But there is actually a lawsuit on this right now because a driver cannot use his device. Apparently can't afford another one right now. And if he can't use his device, he legally can't drive because he needs it for his sleep apnea. So, you don't want to lose your job because of this. So, like I said, if you have a Philips CPAP machine, make sure you go check out the link in the show notes here and find out if yours is affected and what you can do about that. Okay, now we are finally done with recalls. Kids? There we go. That's more like it. Oh, hey, I've said the words show notes quite a few times already. If you're familiar with the show, I put detailed links in the show notes to, so you can click on them. Sometimes there's photos, things like that you can go look at. Anyway, you can check out all these articles. Apple kind of screwed with us lately. We don't really know why. Nobody seems to know why they did that. But if you are using the Apple Podcasts app, the one that comes on the phone, it's the one with the purple icon, it breaks all those links. I don't know why. Nobody seems to know why. But for some reason, they broke all the links. So if you are looking at the show notes in Apple Podcasts, which you usually get to by swiping left, swiping right, swiping up or down, and, when you're listening to the episode and you can see them. Yeah, well, that may not be working for a while. Hopefully Apple realizes this. I hope this is a goof and not something intentional. They did something with podcasts a little weird. They're starting a subscription program. Anyway, it's off topic. It won't affect you whatsoever listening to this podcast. But we're hoping it's not some kind of a weird ploy to get people to, I don't know, to only use the Apple Podcast app, because that's not cool. The Apple Podcast app is not bad, but hey, if you are a steady podcast listener and you listen in Spotify or Apple Podcast or whatever, these are not the best apps for that. Again, Apple Podcasts is pretty good. Spotify is not a great experience for podcast listeners. I don't even think they have show notes in there. If you are a podcast fan, do yourself a favor and go get a podcast app. If you are on Apple, on an iPhone, I highly suggest Overcast. They have a free version. There's a little ad at the bottom that does not get in the way whatsoever. And you can pay, I don't know, it's $10 a year for something if you really like the app. Now, I have a specific reason I need to use that app so I can test my feed before it goes out to you. But that's why I pay the $10 a month, but you do not need to. There's lots of other good apps for iOS. And if you're on Android, there's options there too. Podcast Addict is a good one. I believe there's an ad version and there's an ad-free version, and you could always use Google Podcasts. They have their own podcast app, but all of these apps will show you the show notes and give you all of the detailed information, like if I have a bulleted list or something in my show notes to make it look more clear and neater and everything. Those will be in these podcast apps because they still support it. But for some reason, Apple doesn't now. It just looks like one giant mess of text, and that's horrible. Plus, you can't click on any links. So anyway, like I said, do yourself a favor. If you are a podcast listener or even just listen to this podcast, go get a decent podcast app, please. Okay. I wondered if I should even mention this because I knew this happened on the last podcast and I didn't say anything about it. I just kind of wanted to see if anybody even mentioned it. And from the feedback I've gotten, which is absolutely none, nobody missed it. So I don't know why I spend this much time on podcast show notes, except for the fact that eventually I think podcasts are going to be a way bigger deal than they are now. And it will be good to have this information in there for, people in the future. That's kind of why I'm doing it, because clearly most of you are not clicking on those links. You didn't even know they were screwed up. So, of course, maybe that's because you're all awesome and you're using your own individual podcast apps. Although I probably feel like a lot of you are just using the stock ones. Anyway, enough talk about show notes. Lord knows I say it enough in the podcast already. Quit talking about it already, Todd. Get on with it. Show notes, show notes, show notes. Hey, do you remember those after school little segments that were called The More You Know? Yeah, just a little, public announcement on ways to be better or whatever, better be a better person. And the more you know. Well, this is kind of one of those little public service announcements. We have talked about CBD till I'm blue in the face. Anyway, the FMCSA is issuing another reminder to truckers that CBD oil is not recommended for truckers. Yes, it doesn't have the drug element of marijuana, but Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, or FMCSA, would like to remind all truckers that, hey, that a CBD can cause a positive drug test. And it doesn't matter if you say, hey, I'm only taking CBD. It's still going to go down as a positive drug test. Now, we have talked about this alcohol and drug clearinghouse quite a bit lately, and how it's causing, 40,000. I think the number's up to 50-some thousand now that are truckers that have lost their jobs because of drug testing, or failing a drug test, or failing to take a drug test, or failing one and then failing to go, lots of failing going on here, but failing a test and then failing to go through the recovery program, and all the steps you have to go to get your license back. They're just giving up and getting out of the industry. And, I think it's time we face the facts here. For a long time, we have had an argument over whether there is a driver shortage. And many would say, well, it's just, there wasn't a shortage. It was just, you didn't treat the drivers you had very well. I think at this point, there is a driver shortage. There sure seems to be. I mean, everyone is hiring. Everyone is raising their pay. I mean, for Pete's sake, that's not just in the trucking industry. Everybody on my, in my hometown, basically you drive up and down the main strip and everybody's got a hiring sign out. For Pete's sake, I think you can start at Steak and Shake for like $20 an hour, cooking burgers. So, no excuse for not having a job in this climate, that's for sure, except for the fact that you want to sit on your lazy butt and collect a check, which, hey, I understand if they're going to keep giving it to you. Let's wean them off the teat, shall we? Anyway, let's move on. We're talking about drugs here. Anyway, like I said, it's just a warning. Stay away from CBD. It's not well regulated. It's often only supposed to have a certain amount of CBD or, the THC in it. And it, in order to make their product better, so to speak, they will put more of that stuff than actually says is in it in the product label. And that is getting a lot of people in trouble. So again, reminder from the FMCSA, stay away from CBD oil. And if you think it is the cat's meow and it's really helping you a lot, well, you got to consider you may lose your job for that. Is it that important? Your choice. All right, next up, who loves a good blitz? Yeah, nobody loves a good blitz. But you know what? They are everywhere. I don't even remember. We've had so many safety blitzes recently that I don't even know if I mentioned this before. I think I have, but I'm not sure. So I'm just going to talk about it again. This one is the Brake Safety Week. It's from the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, or CVSA. This is going to be held August 22nd through the 28th. It's a full week. And typically what they do is they take whatever was the worst problem from the previous year and then they focus on that the next year. Well, this year it's all about brakes. Well, not all about brakes. Of course, they're going to be given full inspections and everything, but they're going to be focusing on brakes. They said last year, 43,000 commercial motor vehicles were inspected and about 12% of them were placed out of service for brake related violations. Wow, that's pretty bad. And they also say the brake system was cited as the determining factor in about a third of the fatal commercial motor vehicle accidents. That's not good. So anyway, make sure your brakes are up to snuff now, but for sure by August 22nd. And be ready for another week of hell. Or just take a vacation. What the heck? Get off the road. Still get your brakes fixed, please, for the sake of all of us. You don't want to be that guy screaming down a mountain with no brakes, right? I hope not. All right, how about an update on the I-40 bridge down in Memphis? Yeah, that sucker was closed down for quite a while. It is finally reopened. Now, I'm not sure exactly which day. I saw two different reports. One said it opened on the 2nd. One said it was opening completely on the 6th. I'm not sure when it was completely open, but the important thing is that it is back open. Boy, what a hassle that thing was. I have a coworker who does a bid from Joplin down to Memphis, and our yard is about 20 miles from that bridge, and it took him 2.5 hours on a Saturday afternoon one time. So it's really good that that thing is back open again. So, now people can take I-40 straight through Memphis again and not have to loop all the way around the southern side of the city. Man, what a pain in the butt that must have been. I'm glad I never had to go down there during this construction. In case you are late to this game, they found a crack in that bridge and had to shut it down. It was shut down for, a month and a half, 2, something like that. But anyway, they finally got it fixed. So, if you're heading through Memphis, just burn right on through there. Well, that's pretty much always my advice when it comes to Memphis. Just keep trucking. Don't stop. All right. Speaking of things that really suck right now, but could possibly be better, like that bridge. How about the New York State Thruway, right? Okay, that's up there, I-90 in New York. Apparently they're closing a bunch of rest areas, but it's not as bad as it sounds. They're going to be closing 27 of these. Right now, there's going to be 10 of them closed, and then they're going to close 6 more in 2022 to work on those. What they're going to do is revamp these. So, they're going to, it says they're going to add increased truck parking, which, like I said, is good. Showers. Didn't know if they have showers or if they're just adding them. Can't remember. Been a long time since I've been up on the thruway and stopped at one of those. They're going to add laundry facilities and fitness centers. Well, that's probably a waste of money, knowing truckers, but I hope you take advantage of them. A couple of important things to note here is that all existing truck parking is still going to be available, and they will have fuel on all of these sites. So that's good to know. It's just that you won't be able to go in and eat or use the restroom or anything like that, unless you like porta potties. If you do, you're a weirdo. But that's just what's going on with this. Just so you'll be aware, again, this starts July the 29th. It does not say how long it's going to be going. There is a list over here at overdriveonline.com of the rest areas that will be closed. Not going to run through those right now, but if you're up in that neck of the woods, you might want to pay attention here. Also, it does say that new food options will be available as part of the redevelopment project. So I can't remember what they have up there right now. I think Burger King, at least one of them I know, is really overpriced and probably will continue to be. But hey, welcome to New York State. So anyway, just thought I would make you aware of that. Just be ready for some rest areas closing on I-90 in New York on the thruway. Hey, we just had a fun topic about, per diem for taxes. Taxes are always fun to talk about, right? Not. Anyway, here's another quick one. Apparently, in 2021 and 2022, they are upping the per diem amount. You know how I mentioned earlier that you could claim, $66 per day, but really you could only claim 80% of that. So it's about 50 to 80 or something like that. You could claim. Well, there is a new exemption for any meal a trucker eats in a restaurant. You can deduct that full amount. Now, again, caveat, let me just say that as we spoke about earlier, this is for owner operators. As far as I know, you still cannot claim anything as a, per diem as a company driver. But if you're an owner operator, and say you ate, 5 meals out that week, at a restaurant, you can deduct 100% of each of those meals. So, for all the details on this and good examples of it, check this out. Link in the show notes to overdriveonline.com. Also, if you track your per diem, a good way to track it, like me always in the past when I was doing it, I'd just have to go back through all of my logbooks and see which days I was gone all day and just count them up as I went. It was a pain in the butt. Well, ATBS has a mobile app. They say they're going to add a per diem tracking feature to the app later this month. So, link in the show notes to this article, and there's a link in the show notes to there's a link on this article to the mobile app also. And again, I don't know if it's in there yet, but it probably should be because this was written back in early June. So hopefully it'll be out. Anyway, if you're interested in that, check it out. Hey, those little medical clinics you see at a lot of the Pilot Flying J's around there? Well, you're not going to be seeing them for very long. Well, the building may be there. It'll be boarded up. Apparently, this company is called the THT Group, and they filed a Chapter 7 bankruptcy a little bit ago, and they're closing all 14 of its clinics. So apparently this was not a big blockbuster hit. Although I have to admit they were pretty handy, especially for like an owner operator. You could just go in there and get your DOT physical and stuff like that. I know the Flying J in Joplin is where, they had one behind there. And that's where my company would send us to go get our DOT physicals. And it was really easy. You could just walk in. There was never a wait. You never had to schedule an appointment, anything like that. Now we're going to have to try to find something new. But anyway, I just thought I would announce this in case, you are one of those drivers who typically would just stop in at one of these little clinics and get your DOT physical. Do not count on that in the future, because the place you've always gone or the place you're thinking about may be gone by the next time you get there. So anyway, link in the show notes to all of this information, what happened to them and why it didn't work out. That's sad. I'd like to think there was a clinic, a health clinic right there on site in case you injured yourself or anything like that. You don't have to try to squeeze your truck into a hospital. That's never going to work out well. You probably cause more injuries getting into the hospital with your rig. So anyway, just a little story here on freightwaves.com. Go check out the link in the show notes. Speaking of health, have you ever worried about not passing your DOT physical? Well, it does happen, and part of the problem here, well, let me point out, this is overdriveonline.com, one of their excellent trucking law articles called You Failed Your DOT Physical, Now What? Basically, this goes into saying that, I'm just going to summarize, basically the CME, which is the Certified Medical Examiner, the doctor or the nurse practitioner, I guess, who's ever on that list that is qualified to give you that test, basically they can get it wrong. Sometimes things are up for debate. They can, it's kind of at their discretion whether they think you're able to drive or not. So they're basically saying, get a second opinion if you don't understand why you passed, or you think, it's not that big of a deal. Now, there are certain qualifications that every CME must follow by law. And for instance, they have to have certain vision standards, hearing, seizures, insulin use, stuff like that. But even we know from earlier conversations here on the Trucker Dump podcast that even there are, waivers for things like vision and some hearing and things like that. So even then, the CME might not know that waiver even exists. So they might not, suggest to you, hey, go this route, see if you can get a waiver. So again, just as with most medical things, a DOT physical seems like a small thing, but it is your livelihood. You cannot drive without it. So if you get somebody who says, hey, you can't drive because you need a CPAP device, but you're thinking, I might have sleep apnea, but I wonder if it's as bad as he says it is. Well, go to another doctor, find another CME and go and see what they say. Now the article does say, this one's written by Alexander E. Underwood. He works at the KT Health Clinic in Springfield, Missouri, or near Springfield, Missouri. And he says, be sure not to just shop around, because, for instance, if you fail a drug test repeatedly and then all of a sudden you pass after, failing 10 of them, it's going to look mighty suspicious, and all of those tests, failed or not, are uploaded to the FMCSA, so they have access to all of that stuff. So you don't want to be trying to, game this system. And it also says that if you think you're going to not pass in the middle of one, for instance, the doctor says, oh, this doesn't look good. You get up thinking, okay, well, this one won't register. It will register. If you get up and walk out of one of these things, of an exam like this, it does register and it will show as an incomplete test, which again is going to be suspicious. Why did they get up in the middle of this, exam and leave? That's not going to look good on you. So, one last thing here is, Alexander points out, drivers have been prosecuted for failing to disclose medical histories in order to obtain certification. This is one of the worst things you can do. Chances are you will be caught and lose your driving career. You might even end up in prison. This is true. You cannot lie about your medical history. If you've got epilepsy or something, for Pete's sake, you need to not lie about that, because you could, really cause some damage out there with, wrecking and just wiping out, lots and lots of people. That's not good. And you can go to prison for that. So do not lie. I would advise put this in my books too. Make sure that if you are trying to get a job at a place, you run through your prescriptions. You don't have to tell them if you're taking that little blue pill. I don't think that's none of their business, but some of the heart medicines and things like that, or anything odd that you're taking, you probably need to clear that through your company. I don't know if companies are allowed to have different guidelines on that stuff. I honestly don't. That's a good question. If you know the answer to that, send me an email at truckerdump@gmail.com and tell me. I'm unaware of that, but anyway, that is enough about that. Let's move on. I will have a link in the show notes to Mr. Underwood here, and I'll have his phone number and his email address and everything like that. So if you have a specific question, looks like a really nice guy in his picture, so I'm sure he would be able to help you out. And as always, thank you to overdriveonline.com for these excellent trucking law articles, always some of my favorite ones. All right, in these next two stories, well, we got some states that are up to some more trucker unfriendly shenanigans. Yep, Alabama. They are proposing a truck-only toll to bypass the Wallace Tunnel in downtown Mobile. They want to charge no more than $15 per truck to have a new bridge built that they say is only going to be for trucks over 46 feet long. I don't know. You build a whole bridge just for the trucks. Not sure if that's actually going to happen or not. Anyway, it's interesting. It hasn't been passed yet, but they're looking at it pretty severe. So, hey, why not nail the truckers for it? What the heck? Although, let's be honest, if it is for truckers alone, I guess that makes sense why they're only charging truckers. They will only be charging truckers up to $15. But, yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see on that one. I'm not sure I trust them in any of that kind of stuff. You know who else I don't trust? Connecticut. Yeah, they've been trying all kinds of ways to tax truckers for whatever reasons. Like, hey, our state really stinks and we don't have enough money, so let's get it out of truckers. And it looks like they finally got it done. We've talked about this a little bit. This is the VMT, which is the vehicle miles traveled. I believe that's what that stands for. It's what we were talking about, how they're going to charge truckers so much per mile for traveling through the state of Connecticut. Yeah. So any vehicle weighing more than 26,000 pounds is going to be required to pay this VMT. It's going to range from 2.5 cents per mile for trucks weighing 26 to 28, up to 17.5 cents per mile for trucks weighing more than 80,000 pounds. So, hey, if you need a good reason to skip Connecticut and bypass them, great. I do love a tweet that they put in this article here in overdriveonline.com. This one's from Todd Spencer, who is the president, or I think he's the president of OIDA, which is the Owner Operators Independent Driver Association. He writes an excellent tweet. He says, while bluster may be in fashion, should store shelves start thinning out, you might regret your choice of words, unless, of course, you can eat them. That's awesome. Way to go, Todd. Appreciate that. Stick up for us truckers. Love it. So anyway, unfortunately, I think this is just setting a new trend where, hey, let's go after the trucker, get the money out of them instead of sapping it from our own citizens in our own state. Sure. Why not? Truckers are rich, right? Hey, did I say 2 states were up to some shenanigans? Well, I guess I meant 3. Yeah, Pennsylvania's back at it again. This time with the toll road. Imagine that. Okay, starting January 2nd of this coming year, they are going to have yet another toll increase. Good grief. I like this little statement they put in here. It says, officials say 2022 will be the first time in 6 years that fares will have jumped by less than 6%. Ooh, thank you. It's like, wow, okay, it's 5% this time. And they're like, okay, we're still charging you more than we were before, but it's not as much more as we have in the past. Yeah, That's stupid. Anyway, it says the truck fare is going to go up on the most common fare, probably, from one exit to the next. It'd be It's $13 now. It's going to go up to $13.70 if you have an Easy Pass. And it's going to go from $26.60 up to $28 for toll by plate. Boy, I don't know. Are they just trying to run truckers out of Pennsylvania? I mean, you're kind of stuck. If you need to go across 76 there, you need to go across 76, and that kind of sucks. But, it's 70 part of the way too, I guess. The company I used to work for routed around that toll road. They hated it so much they'd send you on 70 and then they drop you down on 79 down into West Virginia, and then you'd cut across on I can't remember the name of that highway now. 68, is that right? And then cut back up at Carlisle, if you had to go back there. It was messed up, but they figured it was cheaper to do that than to take that toll, cheaper to run up those out of route miles than to take that toll. And that was way back when I worked for that company. So yeah, only getting worse. Imagine that. Thanks, Pennsylvania. Okay. Now we're done with states shafting you, at least in this podcast anyway. Stay tuned to next episode. This next one I'm not going to spend much time on because, quite frankly, it just kind of pisses me off. OverdriveOnline.com. Speed limiter bill reintroduced in Congress. Yep. May 25th, the Cullum-Owings Large Truck Safe Operating Speed Act. Yep, this is the one we spoke about earlier, where any vehicle manufactured after 1992 will have to have a speed limiter on board, speeds up to maximum of 65 miles per hour or 70 miles per hour with certain safety technologies such as adaptive cruise control systems and automatic emergency braking systems. Okay, well, it's back in the news. They're pushing it forward. We will see how this goes. Of course, all of the big trucking organizations are for it. The Truckload Carrier Association, the Trucking Alliance, the AAA, the Institute for Safer Trucking, Road Safe America, and the Safe Operating Speed Alliance all are way for it, as I believe the ATA is. I don't know why they aren't mentioned in this, but they've always been for it in the past, whereas, more owner-operator focused OIDA is completely against it because it is, as we've spoken before, it's kind of leveling the playing field. If, owner-operators can't give their drivers, the freedom to go the speed they want to go, then, typically the fleets can often pay a lot more than what an owner-operator can. And so that, if a driver may want to drive a nice truck that'll go 75 mile an hour or even 80 or 85 if he's out there in Utah or Texas, great. Have fun with that. That's the speed limit, right? Well, that will take away their incentive if they can, if they're limited down to 65 or 70 now, and, they might as well go to work for one of these large fleets, which is kind of the argument that's been going around for a long time. Why the ATA, the American Trucking Association, which represents all the big national carriers, why they want this in, and OIDA does not want it because it's probably going to kill a lot of owner operators. And we don't want that. I know it looks like all the fleets are the biggest thing out there, and that is most of the trucking, but honestly, it's been proven time and time again, the vast majority of trucks out on the road are owner operators, small businesses, not the big mega carriers. It just looks like it because they are far more noticeable because there's lots of them and not just one or two or five or six, however many the owner operator has. So anyway, bummer. I hate regulation, but hey, what do you get? I'm not going to say one more word about that. Hey, you remember all those times that the FMCSA said they were going to quit granting extensions for COVID reasons? Well, they're big fat liar pants on fire because they're doing it again. Yep, you can get an hours of service waiver, your CDL, your CLP, which is your learner's permit, and the medical card. All of those are now extended through August 31st. They were set to expire at May 31st. So I don't really understand what's going on here. I mean, most everything is open back up again. Why are there still extensions? But anyway, if you were one of those those people who are really procrastinating, putting everything off to the last second, well, you got a reprieve. So better make it worth your while. These waivers, these extensions are going to stop one of these days. Seriously, they will. Okay, maybe not. It's the FMCSA we're talking about. Ugh. All right, enough about that. All right, this next article is, of course, on overdriveonline.com, and it's a shout out to the ladies. Ooh, it's a lady. Hey, that's the Ladies Man skit on Saturday Night Live. By the way, if you're unfamiliar with that, it's really politically incorrect nowadays, but it was funny back in the day, especially the one with Julianne Moore. That one was hilarious. Check that one out. Ladies Man, Julianne Moore, Saturday Night Live. You won't regret it. Funny stuff. Hey, dump truck outside my window. Great. Trucker dump. What do I get? No, anyway, I'll just point out in this article that it shows that, during all of this COVID stuff, drivers weren't coming into the industry as fast as they were previously. It's never been a super fast process, not like a lot of truckers just, piling into trucking all at once, but it's always been where there are more males piling in than female, but percentage wise, females whooped our butts, dudes, in the pandemic here. They just kept kind of gradually entering, and, it's actually surpassed their previous numbers on how well they're doing in getting females into the trucking industry. I'd like to think this is due in part to our friends over at Real Women in Trucking. I've had Ellen Voy on the show before, and that was a great interview. If you check that out, there'll be a link in the show notes to that. Don't remember what episode it is, but it will be in the show notes if you're not using Apple Podcast, that is. If you're using an actual decent podcast player. So anyway, there it goes into lots of reasons why this might be. None of them really all that important. I just thought it was cool. Give a shout out to the ladies. Ooh, it's a lady. Sorry. I can't hardly ever do that without saying lady. I don't know why. I don't even know what's politically correct anymore. Is it? I've heard female is a bad thing to say. I've heard lady is a bad thing to say. So I don't even know what to call you. Women? Just women, I guess. That's kind of boring. Ooh, it's the woman. Now that doesn't sound right. Ooh, it's a lady. That sounds right. Okay. Onward. Hey, that long-term debate that we've discussed many, many times here on the podcast about driver shortage and whether there actually is a driver shortage or whether it's some other factor? Well, overdriveonline.com has got an interesting article you might want to check out over here. Basically, there's some new evidence coming to light that really is kind of taking, the eye off of, that there's just a driver shortage. Of course, we have talked about, that I think the last figures are about 64,000 drivers have been sidelined due to the drug and alcohol clearinghouse thing, and they haven't gotten back in the workforce yet. But there's some other factors. One being, the unemployment right now. They've still got all of these COVID era unemployment extensions, where I like this quote in here. And this one guy says, we did an analysis and looked at the median wage of a truck driver compared to maximum unemployment benefits. And the difference was less than $5,000 a year in 22 states. That's not a big delta when you consider that one is doing nothing and one is doing a difficult job. Yeah. That's exactly right. Got a lot of people just sitting at home collecting a check because they're either making more or close to it. I remember back when I got laid off last year due to COVID. I was sitting at home making about, I don't know. Well, I'm not going to say how much I was making, but when I actually got called back to work, I was going to make $100 more. But I was going to be working about 40 hours a week, on a crappy little bid. But still, I'm working 40 hours a week and bringing home about $100 more per week. So, I mean, I was happy to get back out in the system and, help the economy get going again. But, at the same time, I might have been fine with sitting on my butt for an extra month. I think it was another 5 weeks, before everybody got called back and I got off that bid. But anyway, the government tit is just, sorry, can I say that in a family friendly podcast? Well, I just did. Anyway, it just goes to show, man, like I said in the last episode, I'd go up and down the main drag here in my hometown, and it just, there's help wanted signs everywhere, but yet they're still screaming. I saw an article just the other day that 2.63 million people have signed a petition saying that they want the government to give them $2,000, every American $2,000 a month. And they're trying to get it up to 3 million signatures. And apparently the Democratic Party is taking it into consideration, which we've got enough problems in this country without adding on. I realize, some of the poorer people could probably use that, but everybody? And, I don't know. I think handouts is not the right answer here. But anyway, I'm going to get too far off on political stuff, and we don't want to do that here on the Trucker Dump podcast. Try to stay away from that as much as possible. But anyway, the unemployment is definitely, keeping people from coming back to work. So there's a shortage there. There's also a shortage of trucks, and that's because of the shortage on the semiconductors. This article says it takes 15 to 35 semiconductors to build a truck, and they are way behind. I guess they're behind about 40,000 trucks right now. Normally was, built like 155,000 trucks in 2019, and in 2021, that number's just 115,000. So yeah, not being able to kick out trucks fast enough too. But the thing I found most interesting about this article was the fact that they're saying there is something really overlooked in the trucking industry when they talk about, how many truck drivers are available. And just learning this, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is, the government responsible for keeping track of this stuff, how much truck drivers make, how many truck drivers there are, all that stuff. They're only getting this information from payroll. So, if they're counting all the Schneiders, JB Hunts, US Expresses, UPS, FedEx, all of the company workers, but they're not necessarily factoring in owner-operators, like small owner-operators. And it's amazing that could be part of the problem, because I'd like to try to figure out what this is, what's causing this phenomenon. But it says, from this graph shows from 2004 all the way up to like 2020, there has not been one single month where there have been more than 4,000 new for-hire trucking companies. That's in the States here. So, meaning that, some company driver decided to go out on their own, start their own business, buy their own truck, that kind of thing. There hasn't been more than 4,000 of those in any given month up until 2021. And then all of a sudden in 2021, you get 6,000 new truckers with their own authority, or, go on owner operator or whatever. Even lease, I think might count here. But even weirder, it jumped up to 10,000 in June. So again, maybe there isn't just less truck drivers. Maybe they're just shifting, and they're not going from, they're not just company drivers anymore. They're going, from company driver over to owner operator. Man, I'm spitting all over myself tonight. Sorry about that. Anyway, it's just a weird phenomenon. I'd like to know why. It seems like to me that in this time of, uncertainty with the COVID and everything, you just want a paycheck, a good paycheck. It doesn't seem like a good time to be striking out on your own, especially when freight was, down a little bit for a while there. But now it's really kicking. So maybe that's why people are doing it. They're just, seeing that the freight's back up, and, they're anticipating a big boom here. I don't really understand what's going on there. Maybe one of you owner operators out there listening understands this better and could explain it to me. Feel free to do so. Go ahead and read this article on overdriveonline.com and then shoot me an email at truckerdump@gmail.com and explain to me what the heck is going on. Hey, you want to know another topic that we've beaten to death? Yeah, the AB5 stuff out in California. This is regarding what constitutes as an owner-operator, and the whole lease purchase thing out there is in question whether that's going to be legal in the future. Well, it's had many ups and downs. The most recent information here, I've got one article from freightwaves.com and another from overdriveonline.com. Basically, there were trucking organizations in California coming forward saying, "Hey, we want to rehear this case, because they had lost, and it was going to, it was basically going to get rid of the lease purchase system that they have out there, cause all sorts of havoc." But they were wanting to get it reheard. They were wanting to get it reheard, and an appeals court denied that. But then they turned right back around, and apparently the Supreme Court is actually going to get in on this. They're going to make a final decision on this eventually. Now, we know the Supreme Court moves very slowly, so it may take them a while to get to it. But apparently the Supreme Court is actually going to weigh in on this subject because it is a major deal. I mean, like I said earlier, most truckers are owner-operators, and a lot of them lease on with another company. Now, if they can't do that, they're going to have to come up with a different model, either to go company driver or go full owner-operator with your own authority. They're going to have to make some changes. So anyway, for now, all truckers in California are exempt until the Supreme Court looks at it. This is the latest information that I have found. Who knows? Maybe it'll flip-flop 5 or 6 more times before it gets to the Supreme Court. Who knows? All I know is I hope it goes away for a long time because I am personally tired of talking about this topic. Let's move on. I think there's about one article I read every show that I just don't understand and I need help with. And I think this is the one. This is over overdriveonline.com, and it's about specific sleep apnea screening criteria cut in latest draft medical examiner handbook. We spoke about this before, where they used to have a list of, recommendations for doctors, about sleep apnea. There were details on stuff like how to screen, how to test, how to treat, and how to monitor drivers with regard to sleep apnea. And for some reason, they took them out of this latest handbook. Nobody seems to know why. There's a lot of debate about it. I don't really know. I mean, if they want to push sleep apnea so hard, I don't know why they're dropping. It's not like they're dropping the. They still want you to get tested, but they're just saying we're not going to recommend doctors any particular way to do it. I guess they're just saying, hey, you're a doctor, use your judgment, which I would think is kind of what you want. You wouldn't want just a set guideline and, pass or fail. I don't know. Again, I don't understand this story. So if somebody's got some time, please read it and get back with me. Let me know what you think, because it makes no freaking sense to me. It just seems like a bunch of words on a page. I usually like Overdrive Online, their writing, but I just don't get this one. Sorry, Todd. Todd Dills is the author of this one, but I just don't get it. I'm confused. Somebody help me. Hey, just a little bit ago, we talked about Volvo and how they were really focusing on electric vehicles and infrastructure. Well, that's great. But for now, they don't have that. So what's the next best thing? How about a sweet-looking new Volvo VNL series with a fuel-efficient D13 turbo compound engine in it? Head on over to volvotrucks.us to find out more information, or click a link in the show notes that'll take you directly to a video that explains it really well. So what is the D13 turbo compound engine? Well, it's just more fuel efficient than the old D13. In fact, it's 6% more efficient than the D13 and up to 11% more efficient than their 2015 engines. Now, it manages all this by using a new wave-shaped piston design that burns the fuel more efficiently. And then any energy that isn't used, it's recaptured and reused by the turbo compound unit. Like I said, it's super fuel efficient, and not only that, but it's smart. For example, the D13 turbo compound will adjust the torque of the engine depending on how heavy or light your load is. How cool is that? Frickin' thing's smarter than I am. Not that that's all that hard to do. But seriously, all of this is going to save you big money at the pump. And that's even more important with the way diesel prices are jacking up there, right? So do yourself a favor and head on over to volvotrucks.us to learn more about Volvo's sweet D13 turbo compound engine. Or like I said, just click a link in the show notes and it'll take you right to a video that explains how it all works. And then when you're done there, what the heck? Just run on down to Volvo and buy a new VNL. Easy peasy. Thanks to Volvo Trucks for sponsoring this episode of Trucker Dump. And now, kids, we reach the part of the show where we all get frustrated at both the Democrats and the Republicans for being idiots who can't get along. All right. I got two articles here. The first one's on freight waves, and the second one is on overdriveonline.com. I'll put a link in the show notes to both of those. All right. First, the Democrats control the House, as you know, and they push through what they want, and then the Senate agrees to it or doesn't. And if they don't, they go back to the drawing board, and that's where it usually happens pretty much every time. Well, here's what happened. The House Democrats pushed through some things that truckers really don't want and some things that truckers really do want. So the first thing that truckers really don't want is they are wanting to raise the truck insurance liability from $750,000 to $2 million. They are wanting to mandate automatic braking on new trucks, which is also in the Senate version. And they're wanting to increase scrutiny on truck dispatch services. Now, the Republicans do not want the raise up to $2 million on this. We've spoken about this before. There was an article we spoke about where it showed that most truck accidents do not go above the $750,000 mark. So if you are just bumping it up to $2 million, you're just basically telling the lawyers that, hey, you can get more out of these people now, which is not cool because that's going to cost the truckers long term. A lot of the big companies, a lot of the big freight haulers, the big carriers are a lot self-insured. They do have insurance, but a lot of them are self-insured because they're so big, but it's going to kill the little owner operator. So that's not a good thing. Now, in addition to the insurance premium increase and the automatic emergency braking mandate that they want, they're also including some other things in here that small business truckers are not very happy about, including OIDA, the Owner Operator Independent Driver Association, who represents a lot of owner operators. The Democrats are in the House are pushing screening requirements for sleep apnea. They're pushing for underride guards on all trucks, and they're wanting to restrict the use of the truck for personal conveyance. And they're also promoting the use of electronic logging device data for transportation research, which basically means tracking you by your ELD and using that to find out, what roads are traveled and things like that, so they know where to put money. Yeah, mixed feelings on that one. But anyway, right now, this article just goes on and says, the Senate says none of this is going to happen. They put too much extra pork in it, and it's just not going to happen. They're never going to pass it this way. So we will see. It did go on to the Senate, and they have released their own version. Like I said, some of the things they want are the same as the House of Representatives, but many of them are not. For instance, it does not include a hike to the minimum liability insurance, and it leaves out screening for sleep apnea. But One thing it does not put in there is grants for truck parking, for more truck parking. And that is one that the Republican or the Democrats are actually for, which good for them, because we need that. Also, one thing I noted in here is that the House version, they have a price tag of $547 billion on it. The Senate version says $78 billion. Big difference there. So they got a long way to negotiate on this one. So anyway, let me run down just a few quick things at the Senate's, what they're calling the Senate's Surface Transportation Investment Act. They're looking for automatic emergency braking on all new vehicles that are being manufactured. They are looking at an under 21 apprenticeship program. So we talked about that before here. They want to really look at lease purchase agreements, and I'm guessing this has something to do with that AB5 thing out in California, and just seeing what is going on. They're wanting to study these lease purchase agreements and see, if they're really owner operators or if they're, can even be classified as independent contractors. Again, they are looking at underride protection. They are also wanting to look at electronic logging devices, but they're wanting to look, form a group to study to analyze the cost and effectiveness of the ELDs. And they really want to detail how the FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, is reviewing these e-logs. And they want to make sure that that any proprietary information is, they can't track you with this stuff. So if they're going to use the data, they will use it as like a bulk group of data that does not have anything specifically with your name on it. Some tech companies do that and others don't. For instance, Apple does that a lot when they collect information from your phone. They're like, oh, your phone's tracking you. Well, it is, but it's just putting it in a lump of data, a lump of bigger data, and you cannot be identified as, you were here or you were there or whatever or you bought this or whatever on the phone. It's not doing that. Whereas maybe an Android phone is doing that because Google sells ads. Apple gets their money from hardware mostly. So anyway, not to get off on a tech side there. They're also including some human trafficking stuff in here. They want to allocate funds to support it and to help, truckers get the word out that trucking is, a big part of human trafficking, and to help that out. And then they're also wanting to look at brokers and really look at that whole process and see if brokers are being crooks, it sounds like. So anyway, if you want all the details on this one, head over to overdriveonline.com or freightwaves.com. I'll link in the show notes. We've been talking about this minimum truck liability insurance for quite a while now. And as we've spoken about, really one of the main things that is going to cause if that insurance rate goes up is that, there's going to be more lawsuits because all these truck accident specific lawyers are going to be really going after the trucking companies because now they know they can get $2 million instead of $750,000. Well, Texas might be wanting to do something about that. This article was reported to me by a listener named Michael Petrilla, or probably Petria. He's from Texas, I think. He reported it. He saw this on fox4news.com. And what this article is all about is Texas is trying to pass a bill that is going to make it harder to win damages from big rig crashes. Now, okay, it's got two sides to it. It could be bad for the driver, but it could be, at the same time, it could be good in overall lawsuits that it's reducing the amount of lawsuits. So what this aims to do is separate the trucker's actions from the trucking company's actions. So basically they're saying, hey, let's focus on the trucker and see what he did wrong or she did wrong. And if it's their fault, focus on them. Now, at that point, the lawyer knows they're not going to get millions and millions of dollars. What was that recent award? no, for Werner was against Werner was like 92 million or something like that. They are never going to get that out of the average everyday trucker. So it would reduce that. They're not going to, if the trucker doesn't have it, you can't get blood out of a turnip, as they say. So, basically they would either drop it or just, ask for less money or something like that. The whole idea is to get all of these frivolous cases out of the courts. But they do say, of course, that if it is the trucking company's fault, if they deem that is the cause of this, for instance, the trucking company was pushing the driver to drive over his hours of service or something like that. Now, again, I'll say for the millionth time on here, don't let a company do that, because that is going to fall back on you. Do not drive over your time. No job is worth that. Just, this is not 1970 where you're running paper logs and you got 4 logbooks going. Okay. These are e-logs. Don't do it. You're going to get caught. And if you have an accident and get caught, you are going to get nailed to the freaking wall. So don't do it. Okay. Don't let these companies talk you into it. That job is not that important. Trucking companies are hiring everywhere. Go find some place that isn't going to make you drive illegal. Okay. But, anyway, as I was saying, they at least will look at that and see, hey, was this accident caused by poor maintenance on a truck or something like that is beyond the control of the trucker. And then if that is the case, then they can sue the pants off the trucking company, which is the way it should be. But, like I said, right now they're just going willy-nilly after every trucking company because they know they've got at least 750 million or 750,000 that they can call on from the insurance companies, and they just know it's going to be a big payoff. That's why you see the hammer in Indianapolis. Those billboards are everywhere because they know they can get the money out of the trucking companies. Well, maybe not. If Texas gets this going, maybe other states will follow. Again, it hasn't passed yet. They're looking at it. They're not even sure what what Governor Abbott's is going to plan on doing with this. They said his Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, it's one of his priority bills, so he's going to be wanting to push it pretty hard. We'll see what the governor says about that. But anyway, thank you, Michael Petrilla, whatever your name is. Sorry for butchering it. That's my bag. That's how I roll. Thank you for reporting this story. Appreciate it. If you want more information on this, check out the link in the show notes. And hey, while we're at it, if you have a story that you find that you think is very interesting and ought to be brought to the attention of the trucking community, please email me at truckerdump@gmail.com and let me know. I will have a look at it. If I think it's, decent, something that you might want to know about, I will include it. And if not, I hope there's no hard feelings. All right, let's move on. I'm thinking I should have titled this episode Todd Doesn't Understand, because here is yet another one, freightwaves.com. So this is talking about the big trust fund, the one that they've put in, like federal fuel taxes will go into a big pot of money, into a trust fund, and that would be dedicated for transportation, for infrastructure, things like that. Sadly, it often gets robbed for other things, which is why our roads and bridges are in a freaking mess right now. But apparently this highway trust fund, the fuel taxes have not been raised since 1993. They say the first year that President Clinton was in office. So it's been 22.4 cents per gallon on diesel and 18.4 cents per gallon on gasoline all that time. Now states, of course, add on their own. But effectively what getting rid of this trust fund is going to do is there is going to be no more money set aside for projects like roads and bridges and things like that. It's going to be up to the states to compete for this. So they're going to basically probably raise a lot of taxes on the fuel themselves. So state taxes will be higher on fuel, and all the money that's being collected now for fuel taxes won't go into that trust fund anymore. It'll just be in an open pot of money, just this giant lump of money. And then everybody's competing for it, which this article says no one is looking forward to that because, everybody wants their money, but now everybody's got to compete for it. So the part that confuses me about all this is, Biden's got this thing. I don't even know what it's called, but it's got something to do with infrastructure, talking about we're going to fix everything in infrastructure, but then they take away from they basically eliminate the one big trust fund that was set aside for highway projects. So I'm just confused. I'm really confused. They've got this huge price tag on what they're going to do, with the infrastructure, and then they just get rid of the one thing dedicated to it. I don't understand. Again, please read this article and then let me know what I'm missing here because I am clueless. Freightwaves.com. And hey, while you're at it, please, if you can explain to me why presidents lie so much, please let me know. I don't know if you saw this, but I'm sure you did. It was everywhere in the trucking news and there was all kinds of memes about it. Pretty funny, actually, and all the memes that were going on. But apparently, President Biden was at a Mack manufacturer, like a manufacturing plant for Mack trucks, and made the mistake of saying that he was a trucker. Okay. Of course, the trucking industry is not going to sit back and let that statement just go. They're going to look it up. Well, apparently, I can't remember exactly the scenario, but apparently when you look back in his past, he did ride along in a truck one time in like 1973. Yeah, things haven't changed at all since then, have they? And they did say he did drive a school bus for a little while part-time. So I guess that makes him a trucker, right? I don't get it. Trump lied, Bush lied, Obama lied, everybody lies. Biden, welcome to the group. All right, I'll get off this before I piss somebody off. I'll just leave you with a great quote from Princess Bride, where Mad Max's wife said, "Liar! Liar!" I am such a nerd. Alrighty, let's head over to overdriveonline.com where I can finally understand an article. Okay, this one's called ATRI Outlines Research Goals for 2021. The ATRI is the American Transportation Research Institute, and each year they issue, kind of things they really want to focus on and things that they would like to see happen in the trucking industry. So here are their top priorities for 2021. They want to understand how to best integrate 18 to 20-year-olds into the trucking industry. I think that's a pretty good thing. They want to figure out how to best recruit younger drivers, how to train them, and how to retain them, which is always important, and keep them in the trucking industry because, boy, we're going to need them in the future, and not a lot of younger people are interested in trucking. Also, they want to look at infrastructure. There we are again with that word for electric trucks. They want to look at the demands that electric vehicles are going to put on our grid. They want to figure out, how all of the issues we're going to have with deploying a bunch of electric trucks into the system. And continuing with electric trucks, they want to understand the environmental impacts of zero emissions trucks. So they want to look at the entire life cycle of what they say, a Class 8 truck, from manufacturing, operations, and disposal of an electric vehicle. The batteries, that's always been an issue. It takes a lot more to get the stuff out of the ground to make these batteries than people expect. Giant holes in the ground, and there's all kinds of issues with labor and bad labor conditions where these things are done. And then, of course, it is toxic stuff. So, they got to dispose of it somewhere. What's happening with this? I saw a photo recently of a battery yard. Basically, it was a bunch of little smart cars, not smart cars. Those are actually have engines, but electric vehicles. I can't remember where it was, like France or something like that. And it's just when the cars were so small, the battery was most of it, and when it went bad, people were just getting rid of the whole car. So there was this huge basically like a graveyard for electric vehicles out there. So they want to look into this and see how this is going to impact. Now, I hope along with operations of the electric versus diesel, Class 8 trucks, I really hope they look at how this electricity is produced, because everybody wants to drive the electric vehicle because it's, so eco-friendly. Well, is it? I mean, would really like to see some studies on this. Just because you're using electricity to run your car and you're not burning fossil fuels, most of that electricity has to come from somewhere. We've spoken about this a lot, and a lot of it's going to come from coal producing, electric from coal plants. Sure, some of it's going to be wind and solar and hydro and all that other stuff, but a lot of it still, most of our electricity here in the States is coming from coal plants. So, hey, if you want to burn more coal, buy some more electric vehicles. Makes some sense, doesn't it? A couple other things they want to focus on is they want to see what the impacts of driver-facing cameras on fleets and the drivers. So they're going to look at the safety issues, how these cameras affect litigation if you get into a lawsuit of some kind, and how it affects the workforce itself. Like, is it causing drivers to leave a company because they got a driver-facing camera? And I bet you they're going to discover, yes, it does. Drivers don't like that. And the last thing they want to focus on is marijuana. Yep. Yeah, they want to figure out exactly what, when all these states are, decriminalizing marijuana, and they want to figure out what's exactly happening here. Look at crash data, look at roadway safety, work at workforce, and see, like if people aren't showing up for work because they're stoned out of their minds, that kind of a thing. Anyway, they want to look into that, which I think is, a good idea, because I don't know that any studies have been done on that. Lots of states are going that way with allowing the weed, and, just don't know how that's affecting the economy in general and our roadways. So I think all of these are pretty good things to look into. So way to go on this one, ATRI. You got the Trucker Dump stamp of approval. Hey, speaking of electric vehicles, FreightWaves.com has an article about European electric charging networks. Now, we've spoken about this before where, infrastructure, again, here we go with that word, is going to be a major thing for these, electric trucks. How do you do it? Where do you charge them? How long does it take? How do you afford to do it? I mean, got a lot of trucks here in America and a lot of trucks in Europe. They're saying it is going to take about 12 billion. By 2025, they say. They want to have 15,000 high-performance public and destination charging points and up to 50,000 by 2030. That's according to a report from the European Automobile Manufacturers Association. So here's what's interesting about this article, though. They've talked about like some third parties here in the States that have looked at, building this out. And I've always wondered why the current fuel companies, I'm surprised they aren't getting into it, but maybe they're not set up for that. But this is kind of interesting because over in Europe, Daimler, Traton, who is, the parent company of Volkswagen and Audi and Volvo, they plan on spending $593 million on electric infrastructure. It's a joint venture on this, and they're going to get 1,700 charging stations by 2027. That's for commercial trucks only. So I don't know, just it's a different look at it, a different way to look at it. The trucking companies do have something to not the trucking companies, but the truck manufacturers, they have a stake in this. They know they need to be building these electric trucks, and it's going to be required of them one day. So why not go ahead and jump in and get on the ground floor of this, help establish these things and then make money on them in the end, right? Just something we've, talked about quite a bit here, but we never looked at it from that angle. So maybe the truck manufacturers here in the States ought to be doing the same thing. And actually, some of these Daimler and Volvo especially make their own trucks over here. So, why not get PACCAR on board and Navistar and everybody and get that going? Who knows? They're the ones with all the money. They'll figure out what to do with it. For more on this, freightwaves.com. Oh boy, this next one got me really thinking. This found on freightwaves.com. Check out the link in the show notes. This one is called FMCSA Sees Potential for Human Autonomous Team Driver Regulations. Yep, you heard that right. Why have I not thought of this in the past? We've got these trucks. They're wanting to, have them completely automated one of these days. Now, right now, we are way off from that. Even a lady in the article, or somebody, I'm not sure who it is, in here said that that they are a ways off. The level 5 is, they quoted, level 5 is more of a myth, which is exactly true. We gotta get the driver monitor systems right now. We still have to have drivers everywhere, and it's going to be a long time before we have a truck with nobody behind the wheel. Right now, usually, I read an article just a little bit ago that was talking about JB Hunt and Waymo have got together, and JB Hunt's going to be running some autonomous trucks down on I-45 between, I think, Houston and Dallas. That one actually, they said, usually there's two people sitting there. There's one driver monitoring the system and being ready to react. And then there's usually like an engineer sitting over in the passenger seat, examining what's going on and ready to, tweak things here and there to adjust the system to work better. Makes sense. But like I said, it's going to be a long time before the truck can drive itself. But think about it, way off in the future when it can. Yeah, we're going to need to adjust some of these hours of service regulations and stuff because, as they pointed out, some jobs could be done by humans, others could be done by robots or, the truck itself. So think about this scenario. Take a brave soul. But how about running as a team with a computer? Okay, you drive your 11-hour shift. Now you go back and it can drive for all of the 10 hours where you're off work. You're back there laying there asleep and it can drive that entire time. Like I said, it's going to take a brave individual and I'll probably be long dead and gone by the time that happens. But it is worth thinking about, and they better start thinking about it now because it could happen in the future. Of course, I don't really know why they would need to do that. That might be like a interim step, because eventually if the truck can drive itself, why have a driver at all? But again, like I said, we are way off from that. But interesting article here. Go check it out. Link in the show notes. It's a short article, only take you a couple of minutes to read it. Hey, if you want to know what's going on with driver pay in the industry right now, as you probably know, it's been changing a lot lately. Lots of companies trying to figure out how they can retain drivers and recruit new ones. Well, head on over to overdriveonline.com. They've got a 2-part series over here called Driver Compensation. Part 1 is about guaranteed pay and, if this is a viable solution for the trucking industry and how it works and all that. I would just say, a guaranteed pay is, a trucking company saying, hey, no matter what you do, you're going to get paid this set amount per week or something to that effect. That way, if you're off for a truck being broke down or something like that, it's not your fault. You will get paid for it. But I just want to point out with this, this is a fairly long article, but it's very interesting and it will show you how some of these, fleets are doing this and kind of what to look for and maybe some of the gotchas in here. Like I've spoken on here before about, you got to be careful of these guaranteed pays because, I think I wrote in How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job. I think it was that book. I said, there are no guarantees in trucking. Well, maybe there are now. Who knows? But anyway, like I said, there's lots of gotchas. For instance, there can be, like it could be you have to be available for work. So if you're actually off duty at that time, say, it might say you have to be available all week long to get the guaranteed pay or something like that. Well, if you worked Monday through Friday, but you were off Saturday, that might disqualify you for that. Even if you had been down 3 days that week for a truck repair or whatever, it might disqualify you. So I'm just going to give you a warning that if you are shopping for a new job, which is probably a good time to be doing nowadays with all of this crazy thing going on in the trucking industry, trying to find new jobs and stuff, everybody's looking for truckers. But just beware. I'm not saying that it's bad. It could be a good thing, but just know exactly the way that guaranteed pay works, if that is going to be a major factor in you working for this company and one of the reasons why you want to work for that company. Just be careful with that. Now, part 2 is all about time-based pay, which I think is interesting right in the beginning. They say typically time-based pay, like pay per hour kind of a thing, has been for union jobs. And I know that's the way mine works. Once I punch in at the beginning of a night, it sounds weird to say punching in as a trucker, doesn't it? But yeah, I do. I'm at the terminal. I punch in and then I am paid for something until I punch out at the end of the night, whether I'm driving or sitting there waiting on freight or whatever I'm doing. It is paid, per hour when I'm not driving. So I'm getting paid for everything. And apparently they're saying this model is becoming more and more popular with lots of regional fleets, especially. And there's even some over the road ones that are looking at this. Not quite as many over the road that are looking at, hourly pay, but, some. So anyway, if you're interested in how this hourly pay works and some good examples of it, from some different trucking companies, just go and check this out. Like I said, I don't have anything specific to say about any of these articles, just they're both really good articles about what is going on in the industry today when it comes to driver pay. And I think you would be really interested in driver pay, wouldn't you? I know I am. Again, you'll find both of those articles on overdriveonline.com. You can go directly there, or it's probably easiest just to click the links in the show notes. Boy, oh boy, this next article is not going to be very popular among drivers, but I have to say, I kind of like this author. He is a small fleet owner. He owns 12 trucks. And I would like to point out this is a opinion piece by a guy named Leander Richmond. Again, this is on overdriveonline.com. And here is the crux of what he's saying. Penalizing the carrier for a driver having an incident, an accident, a speeding ticket, whatever, is a flawed rationale, because basically the driver, if the carrier has to fire them because they've had an accident or something like that, then they're just going to go and, the driver's just going to be able to get a job somewhere else and he's going to be back on the road within a couple of days. So it doesn't really address the safety issues. So here is what I believe is going to be the unpopular proposal that he's saying. For all violations the driver has 100% control over, the FMCSA should consider penalties with real teeth, enforced downtime. Yeah. So basically he's saying, just don't slap the driver on the hand, for a speeding ticket or, having an accident or something like that, failing to properly change lanes, things like that. Don't just slap him on the hand, give him some time off, because, that's the way it works. You hit him in the wallet, no matter what, you hit him in the wallet, and that's how people learn. I get this is not going to be very popular. I doubt it ever happens, but it was just an interesting article to read. And I thought, boy, this guy is not making any friends, but, he may not be very popular for putting out this article, but I can't help but like the guy. Let me read you something he wrote in here. Quote, recently, because of speeding citations, we turned all of our trucks down by 5 miles per hour, and the resistance that I received from some of the operators was simply incredible. I had to listen to, collectively, 2 hours worth of explanation on how getting the few miles per hour back would in essence save the world. One driver commented, "I won't drive a castrated truck." I informed him that he already was, and that it was simply a matter of the degree of castration. Well, don't mess with the owner of a company. You don't like it? Go someplace else. Anyway, I just thought this was a neat article, neat concept. Not sure I like it, but I do get it. Like I was speaking earlier in the podcast about the hazmat issues that my company is having. And basically, I've mulled this over in my head so much that really the only thing I can see that is going to help fix this problem is for drivers to get in trouble when they don't load something correctly. A lot of times, it's our city drivers or, our dock workers who are loading those trucks. And if they load them wrong or, improperly placard them or don't do it in a timely manner, don't placard in a timely manner, something like that, that is on them. And if it means them getting a write-up or what we call a letter, then so be it. I've been pushing this when I went to the safety meeting, the safety trainer meeting. I said this to the area safety director. I said, you guys can make all these rules you want, and it ain't going to mean a darn thing unless you back it up, because you can scold somebody over and over, just like Leander's saying here. You can scold somebody, you can hit them with a little fine even, but unless you give them something that's going to hurt, and really, as a union employee, the only thing we fear is losing our job. And we don't even really fear that because, the union protects us so well. But again, this is why you would write a bunch of letters, because once you get one letter, it's no big deal. You get two, you got to start worrying about it. Three, you're going to get some days off. Now, if you're getting paid well, a lot of drivers would just look at that and go, great, I get a few days off without pay. Who cares? But you get that next one and you could be fired. And that is not good. No driver wants that. Sometimes you just gotta wake people up, and again, that is not a very popular opinion. And if I keep going forward with this with my company, I'm not going to be a very popular guy, but, who knows? Maybe I can keep my name out of it. Anyway, interesting article here. Go check it out, overdriveonline.com. All right, now let's finish up with a couple of fun ones. First up, well, a bit late. That's what I get for waiting so long to put out podcasts. But this one, pilots giving away $5,000 in fuel and other prizes throughout the summer. This ran all the way from May 24th up through September 5th. So there's still plenty of time to get in on this. And this is called the Summer is a Go Road Trip giveaway. That's a weird name, but hey, whatever. In addition to the $5,000 in free fuel, they're going to be giving 3 monthly prizes of $250 gift cards. Now, to enter this, you can be a truck driver or just anybody. You're encouraged to share pictures of your travel on Pilot Flying J's Facebook page, or by posting on Instagram or Twitter with the hashtag Summer is a Go giveaway. And you want to tag Pilot Flying J and, on Instagram or Twitter. And it says you can even earn additional entries by, any photo that includes a Pilot branded cup, like one of their mugs or something like that. And, there's also specials on drinks, food, stuff like that. So if you're interested in getting in on this, just check out the link in the show notes, or I'm sure all the details are somewhere up in a Pilot Flying J. Just go by there and check it out. And lastly, well, this one's got a bit of controversy around it already. Have you heard of the new action flick on Netflix? It's called The Ice Road. Yeah, it's about ice road truckers. We got the series out there that's been going on for years. I think it's finally over with now, but it's all about driving on the ice roads up there in Canada, Alaska, all up in there. Well, in this one actually got some big stars. I was a little surprised at this, but these streaming services, like Netflix especially, they're getting some big name actors, and this one involves Liam Neeson. who, you know from the, I can't think of it. Well, he was Qui-Gon Jinn in Star Wars. That's how I know him best since I'm a nerd. But he was also in the other movies, The Taken. No, not The Taken. What were those movies? Anyway, he's always a badass usually, I have a particular set of skills. He's going to kick somebody's butt for stealing his daughter or something. Anyway, he stars in this, and Lawrence Fishburne, who most of you know as as Morpheus from the Matrix series. And there's a newcomer. Her name is Amber Midthunder. She's a young lady, kind of rebellious, but these are all truck drivers, and they are tasked with the job of saving a bunch of guys who are trapped in a mine, and they need to get a piece of equipment over to them. And of course, it's late in the year. They shouldn't be on the ice road. It's too late to actually be on the ice road, traveling across the lake. And there's all kinds of dangers that go along with that. Plus, of course, there's a bunch of bad guys who are trying to prevent them from doing it. So anyway, like I said, there's a little bit of controversy around it because there are a lot of picky truck drivers. Anybody that, has a profession, when you see it on TV, you're like, I can't imagine what the military guys think, or spies, and they're thinking spies don't really do that, or military guys, we don't do that. Why aren't they flanking? Why are they running right up the middle? It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, truckers are no different. And it's already been pointed out that little things some truckers don't consider it a little thing, but they make a big deal out of Kenworth in this show. Everything is a Kenworth, supposedly. One of the first shots, it actually shows like an over the road or over the shoulder shot of Liam driving the truck, and you can clearly see it's a Kenworth. But then when it flashes to him driving the truck, it's actually a Volvo. That, little things like that. But there is a lot of crazy things that happen in a truck, and lots of physics-based things that you're thinking that would never happen, like a traction, like unhooking a trailer to get better traction. That doesn't make any sense, or, a scene where a couple of trucks got tipped over and they managed to get them back up on their wheels with no damage. That's interesting. But overall, honestly, I watched this movie. I thought it was pretty good. The acting was good in it. The thing I really liked the most about it was that for once it didn't make the truckers out to be like bad people, like scum of the earth, bad people that are going to run you over. These are good, decent people just trying to make a living, and they're willing to go, the extra mile, put through the extra effort to try to save these, these miners. And I just thought it overall, if you can overlook the little things, overall, this movie sheds a good light on truckers. So it's not all that long. Check it out if you have Netflix. Again, it's called The Ice Road, and it is actually one of the popular ones on the show right now, probably just because, it involves Liam Neeson, but whatever, if we can shed a light on, the good people that most truckers are, then great. So again, go directly to Netflix to check out the movie, or if you want to see a trailer of it, you can just click on the link in the show notes and watch the trailer right there. And thank the Lord above, I believe that it's finally done with the news. Yeah, I know. Longest episode ever. Seriously though, what do you think of this much news? It's a lot of news, but I go through everything and I just pick out the things that I believe are relevant. Is it too much? Is it too, well, I know it's not too little. There's no question of that. But I'd just be curious to hear your thoughts. I don't get much input on this. I do know in the survey that some of you took, you said you actually enjoyed the news segment, but it was a lot shorter back in the day. It was, usually like 30 minutes or so of it was news. And now, here, what we're looking at, hour and a quarter, 2 hours. I don't know where we're even going to be by the time this is edited, but that's a lot of news, and I haven't again got to a main topic. If I even have a main topic this go around. Again, I realize it's not good to have this much news if it's keeping me from doing a main topic. Boy, it's the main topic. Well, everything takes a long time with this podcast, well, which is why I've been doing it less and less. And that it's kind of a catch-22, honestly. I go longer between episodes so I don't have to do it as often because it's so much work. But then it is a lot of work because I go a long time between episodes. I have 2 hours worth of news to cover, and it just makes it, I don't know. Anyway, I'll quit complaining about it and just let's move on.
Give us a bottle of your finest champagne, 5 shrimp cocktails, and some bread for my brother.
What's that?
Sushi.
Sushi?
Boy, some chicken wings have really hit the spot.
This is a tasty burger.
Don't play with your food, eat it.
All right. If you remember from the last episode, the Trucker Grub segment, we are giving away $50 to anyone who could come up with the 5 movies that you just heard. There's 5 clips, and I just put it out there. Hey, if anybody can guess all those 5 movies, $50. Well, we only had 4 total people get it right. The first was driver Chris Mack, but as he mentioned, he's mentioned pretty much on every show, so he thought it might look a little biased if he actually won. So he withdrew his name. How cool of him. And we also heard from Justin Bird, Keith, and William Garner. Justin and William just wrote the answers, and that's just fine. It worked. They got it right. But Keith actually wrote me a little email to go along with it, and we'll go ahead and read it here. It'll be like a mini feedback segment. Keith writes, Todd, thanks for the free music downloads and the effort you put into the podcast. Hey, you're welcome. And for the record there, what he's talking about with the free music downloads is you can download the entire songs of both the intro and outro music. They are by a band called Walking on Einstein. They're from Joplin, Missouri. Went to high school with a couple of the guys. And a really great band. They're disbanded now, but they offered these songs up for free, and they let me use the songs and cut down versions for the intro and outro. So that was really cool of them. So anyway, you can just go to abouttruckdriving.com and look for free stuff there, and download away. Have fun with that. Both of them are really cool songs. Keith goes on and writes, I think a lot of listeners are like me, silent listeners. You are appreciated. Put Trucker Dump out when you can. I listen to a lot of different podcasts while driving, and only a very few can keep up with the daily, weekly, or twice a month publishing schedule they had started out with. And they are mainly full-time podcasters. Yeah, I don't have that luxury. He says, I like the format of the show, humor, variety of info, etc. Keep up the good work. Well, again, thank you, Keith. And he guessed, let's hear him in order, Blues Brothers.
Give us a bottle of your finest champagne, 5 shrimp cocktails, and some bread for my brother.
Number 2 is Breakfast Club.
What's that?
Sushi.
Sushi?
Number 3 is Tommy Boy.
Boy, some chicken wings have really hit the spot.
Number 4 is Pulp Fiction.
This is a tasty burger.
Figured most of you got that one. And number 5 was the one that gave people fits. I actually had a couple of people, including Kool-Aid in the Trucker Dump Slack group. He was so close, but he just couldn't get this last one. And the number 5 is from A Christmas Story.
Don't play with your food, eat it.
So that leaves 3 names for the hat. William, Justin, and Keith. So how do I do this fairly? Well, I found a cool little website. It might come in handy for you sometime. It's called wheelofnames.com. You can just type in however many names you got in there, spin the wheel, and it picks a winner for you. So here's how that went. Wait for it. And
Justin
wins. How you like that? Congratulations, Justin. You just got yourself $50. I will be reaching out to you in an email, so be looking for that. get your physical address to send you something, or if that's going to creep you out, we can do a PayPal. Actually, PayPal would be better if you have a PayPal account, but we'll figure out all those details when I email you. So again, thanks to everyone who gave it a shot there, and sorry, William, and sorry, Keith. But Justin's a winner. But as I've said before, every time I've had a contest on here, I think people think lots of people are entering and they don't have much of a chance. But you can see here, this was a 1 in 4, well, 1 in 3 if you take driver Chris Mack out of it. And that leaves 3. It's pretty good chances when it comes to a contest on here. So any future contests, you better get your name in the hat. So that's all we have for the Trucker Grub segment this time. I do have something in mind for next time if I hear from nobody else. If you have a favorite restaurant or little snack bar, anything, some little roadside stand that you love and stop at every time you get a chance. Now, the catch is it has to be truck accessible or within a short walk from truck parking. If you have a place like that and you would like to talk about it, send me in like a little 2 to 3 minute audio clip on that. This is audio only. We want to hear your voice on there talking about your favorite place, why you like it, maybe the prices, what's your favorite thing on the menu, what the atmosphere is like, where to park, all that kind of good stuff. So if you're interested in submitting to Trucker Grub, just send me an email to truckerdump@gmail.com.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Well, it appears that my excellent guilt trip tactics that I used in the last episode paid off because I finally got some feedback. But before we get to that, let me take care of an administrative detail here. This is the Trace tablet I spoke about in the last episode. Just had this tablet sitting around that I was not using. Thought somebody might be able to get some use out of it. And I said, hey, whoever emails me first gets it. And, Brandon wrote in. I'm going to try to not butcher Brandon's name here, but you know me, I won't have any success with that. So Brandon Mezquariz, he wrote in and did not win. Sorry, Brandon. William Garner, he wrote, nope, sorry. Jose Santiago, so close, but not quite. Nope, it goes to Christian Cooper. He won by 2 hours, just barely beat out Jose. Sorry, Jose. So anyway, Christian, I hope you got the tablet fine. I sent you an email saying, hey, if you didn't get it, let me know. And I didn't hear from you, so I'm guessing you got it okay. Hope you're finding some good use for that Trace tablet. If not technically, you can always use it for a dumbbell because that frickin' thing is heavy as crap. All right. So anyway, I wrote to Christian and said, hey, man, I hope you live in the United States because I forgot to mention that on the episode that, I want to get somebody to get some use out of that Trace tablet, but I didn't want to have to ship it overseas because it's not worth that much to me. So thankfully, Christian wrote and he says, yes, I live in the U.S. And he says, I actually got done with the delivery when I saw that an episode magically appeared in my podcast feed. Anyway, I've been a long time enjoyer of the podcast. I'm on my 3rd rerun of old episodes. Wow. And it always brightens up my day when a new episode pops up. Keep up the good work from your friendly Dollar General delivery man, Tuneful Rope. Tuneful Rope. I guess that's his handle. I don't know. Interesting. And he also asked to be a member of the Trucker Dump and iTrucker Slack groups. I did send those off to you, Christian. I don't think we've seen you in there yet. If you didn't get those invites, let me know. Man, friendly Dollar General delivery man, huh? Yeah. You guys have to unload that entire truck, right? You got to get it all to the tailgate. Don't they use conveyors or something and a roller system and you have to roll it all out? Isn't that the way that works? That's a lot of work. Much respect, man. Anyway, more respect for you for third rerun of old episodes. Dude, you are really bored. There's a lot of good podcasts out there. I mentioned some at the beginning of this episode. Go check out some of them. Don't do a fourth. That'll cause brain damage, I think. So anyway, Christian, congratulations again for winning the Trace tablet, and thank you to Brandon, William, and Jose who all gave it a shot. All right, first up on feedback, we've got Julio. He listened to Trucker Dump 125, which was called Reserve Truck Parking, Convenience, or Exploitation. There'll be a link in the show notes to that if you have not heard that episode. He writes, truck stops parking are used by truck drivers. To have a number of reserve parking spots is one thing. To charge the whole and every parking lot to truck drivers is a theft, not a solution at all. The effing truck stops exist because of we the drivers, because the money we pay at a very expensive price. Parking at truck stops should never be charged. Well, Julio, I'm not sure if I agree with you completely, because I do think it's okay to charge sometimes, but you said it never should be charged. Well, I don't know. Some paid parking I think is fine. I don't really like it, but it's better than the whole lot. Like you said, that seems a little bit unreasonable, and it seems like exploitation at that point, because it's always near a big city, isn't it? Yeah, it is. So anyway, what are your thoughts on this? You think truck parking should be free everywhere or not? Write in and let me know. truckerdump@gmail.com. Next up, we're going to hear from Driver C. Remember him? He was the guy interviewed in episode 147, which was called Be Careful Choosing a Truck Driving School. Yeah, this was the guy that went to that really horrible truck driving school that didn't teach him anything and had really bad experience afterwards. If you missed that episode, make sure you click the link in the show notes and go back and check that one out, because that was a really bad start to a trucking career. I'm really thankful that C is still driving a truck after all that. So anyway, he writes, I hope everything is good with you. On your last podcast, you said nobody was sending you emails or feedback, as you called them. Anyway, I changed jobs. I'm working for a company now. I am officially a company driver, and I got a 2020 International, and it stops by itself, which sucks. Yeah, I just got a new Peterbilt at work, and it's the same thing. It's kind of shut down on itself a little every once in a while, and I drive a lot of nights, so it gets confused with the shadows and stuff like that. It's just, the dark, well, there's not a lot of shadows at night, but you know what I mean? A lot of dark spots and things like that. And it gets confused sometimes. Just kind of hits the brakes, puts the Jake on. Anyway, he says, what I mean by that is you were talking about automatic braking. If you put on cruise control and it keeps you away from the other vehicle, it tells you the speed of the vehicle in front of you, and then it keeps you 3 miles per hour less than whatever the vehicle in front of you is doing. For example, if the truck or car in front of you is doing 65, they will drop it down to 62. And if it gets too close, it will slam on the brakes hard. Scared the living crap out of me the first time it did it. So I had to get used to it, and most of the time I keep my foot on the accelerator because it will let you do 69 mile an hour, but not with the cruise control on. Okay, well, I think I'm done. Something for you to have for your next podcast. Enjoy your summer. Hey, thank you, Driver C. I appreciate it. Yeah, that, I don't know if mine slows me down 3 mile an hour. I can't tell. It seems to be more focused on just keeping me a certain distance from the driver in front of me. So no matter how, slow they are going, it just will pace me with it, which actually worked quite well the other day. Had some stop and go traffic, and I just let it go to see what would happen. Well, it wasn't stop and go. It was slow down and go faster. So I just put that cruise control on there and left it. And, we were going anywhere from 45 to 60, 3, which is my maximum speed. And it just kind of kept me going with it and didn't really use the Jake that much, as long as it's a smooth transition and not, abrupt. That's when you get the scaring the living crap out of you, like Driver C said. So anyway, thank you, Driver C, for writing in. I do appreciate that. Next up, I got a photo from Jerry Hamby. He was talking about, what did he say here? He says, I remember on a podcast a while back, you had an interview with a guy and he stated that Walmart trucks didn't pull reefers. I took a picture of a Walmart fleet truck pulling a reefer. I'll attach the image below. Yes, you did. And there it is. This one kind of threw me for a second. I couldn't remember. I remember the interview. I don't remember who it was, who said that, but I am surprised if I let that go because I actually have an acquaintance of mine, works for Walmart and pulls reefers out of Oshaleta, Oklahoma. So I know they have reefer trucks. I don't know why I didn't say it in the episode. I must have been thinking of the next question or not quite focusing on what what the guy was saying. Again, I don't remember who that was I was talking to, but anyway, thank you, Jerry, for, he sends in with the subject line myth debunked. So thank you for debunking the myth, Jerry. And lastly, we're going to hear from longtime listener and frequent feedback sender, Greg T. He writes, FYI, while under a load that I got in a repower in Kingman, Arizona, Portland bound, I suffered a slight stroke while coming down the hill from Boulder City into Lost Wages. Lost Wages, Las Vegas. He says, I didn't realize it till I saw a doctor once I got home. After being checked out by medics, I continued on with the load. Ooh. He says, I got the load safely delivered in Clackamas, Oregon, and headed home to get checked out. Well, no more commercial driving for this old fart. It took the company a month to finally come get their equipment. He says the driver had me pull the tractor out for him as he didn't have the confidence to do it himself. Hope it's all going well with you and yours. The Pooch and I are starting our new career off the road. Well, Greg, this sucks. We hate losing a good driver, especially to a medical issue. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. I understand. What he was talking about was the guy who come to get the truck didn't have the confidence to do it himself. He sent me an image. He's got his Freightliner Cascadia backed into a little garage, and it's got about an inch on each side. It's ridiculous. I was curious whether Greg was forced off the road or whether what happens when you have a stroke out here. And he wrote back and said the doctor specifically said no more commercial driving. He says, I'm sure you're familiar with the eye check where they dilate your eyes and have you use the clicker when you see the light flash. I have not had my eyes dilated, so no, I am not familiar with that. Anyway, he says, I've lost about 20% of my peripheral vision, mainly the upper left quadrant. Now, would you want me out on the road in an 80,000-pound truck with only 75% of my vision? Yes, I know that I delivered and made it home safely. I'm just glad that I no longer have to worry about driving in less than optimal driving conditions any longer, such as a whiteout, a fog, or a heavy rain. Yeah, well, you won't have to worry about that. He says it's also nice not to have to look for a place to park, wait in line for a shower, and wonder if I'll have a hood when I wake up. Well, Greg, you wouldn't have any of that stuff if you worked for an LTL company. I don't have to find a place to park, don't have to wait in line for a shower, and I don't have to park at truck stops, so I don't have to worry about my hood being gone. Well, that's not exactly true because city workers are hell on our equipment. So anyway, he says no more East Coast. Oh, I'm going to have to say a curse word here. Earmuffs. He says no more East Coast, Chicago, and California. Okay. He says the queen bitch of the universe, that's his wife, is still doing emergency dispatch for the company. Now she has direct access to advice instead of possibly having to, me sleeping or in cell hell somewhere. Well, Greg, it really sucks that we're losing a good driver. That just bites. I mean, sounds like you're okay with it, ready to get on with a new chapter of your life. We appreciate all the years of service you did for, the trucking industry in general. And don't be a stranger. I know once you're off the road, you got really no use to listen to a stupid trucking podcast, but hey, You got nothing better to do with your time right now anyway, right? I got a friend a coworker who had a mild stroke also, and they made him take a year off. Now he was close enough to retirement that he's probably just going to go ahead and quit, and finish out retirement. But it kind of sucks. I don't know exactly what the criteria is on one. I did talk to another guy who works at our company, and he was talking a little funny, and I thought it was kind of strange. And he immediately told me that he must have gotten that question a lot, because he said he had a stroke and he had just returned back to work. But he was able to pass the driving test and all the physical and all that good stuff. So he was back at work. Good for him. But he was a young guy. And my friend Alan is not exactly a young guy. This is not the Alan out in California or Colorado, by the way. Oh, sorry, Alan. You would never live in California. No, this is a different Alan that I work with. Anyway, we miss him too, because he was a hoot. But he still calls in every now and then, and, we get to chat with him. Not that you care about that whatsoever. Hey, to finish up the feedback segment, you know how I'm always saying that I really suck at emails? Well, I suck at emails. You remember in the last episode, I gave you that big guilt trip about not getting any feedback from y'all? Well, apparently I had not one, not two, not three, but 4 audio comments from Zachary Smacker, who goes by the name of Smackerman in the Trucker Dump Slack group. Yeah, 4 audio comments, which I love and I'm always asking for, but I get them, and then somehow I just manage to overlook them. I am a moron. Welcome to my world. All right, let's hear from Zachary. I think he's going to scold me at the beginning of this one.
Hey, Todd, it's Smackerman. I thought I'd send you another voice memo since apparently you lost everything else I sent you. Anyways, I'm going to talk about the most recent episode you put out. Start off with the vehicle mileage tax. I don't get this. I get that they're trying to talk about it and figure it out, but here's the thing. How could they possibly tax you on mileage without tracking you? There's no way around it. You can't do that. The only way that they could possibly do that without physically tracking you is by saying, the honor system. Just tell us how many miles that you traveled in these states, and we'll give you and we'll tax you on it. And the fact that the prices are all over the place is even more ridiculous. So I really think that that's a very stupid idea. I think that, personally today, and it's a very, very long ways away. I'd be surprised if it happens even in my lifetime, to be honest. And that's saying something, mainly because of we don't have the infrastructure for those kind of vehicles. And, we also don't have the battery technology for it. So I think there's a lot of stuff that has to be taken care of long before anything like that can be going up. And I think that the governments are just trying to come up with another way to get more money from truckers. So that's going to make it a lot harder and a lot more difficult for especially the owner-operators. Now I'll go on to the speed limiter stuff.
Well, Smackerman, let me weigh in on that before you move on. I see what you're saying. Again, I don't think the honor system's going to work. We know we can't be trusted on that stuff, right? How do they do it without tracking? I don't believe they can. And they can't make it anonymous like a lot of tracking stuff is online, because how else would they know it's your vehicle? So the only thing I could think is that the truck or the car or the truck is going to somehow be able to report miles without actually reporting, your actual location. I don't know how they're going to work on that, but you said you don't expect this to happen within your lifetime. Well, I'm pretty sure you're a fairly young guy, and I think you're wrong about that. I think that's going to have to come around. They're talking about, having a lot of electric vehicles, the manufacturers having a lot of electric vehicles out there on the market by 2030, I think it was. So unless you're planning on dying before 2030, I think you better get ready for it. Anyway, it is a hard problem to solve. I'm sure if you or anyone else here listening to this has an idea to fix this problem, how they're going to tax cars for being on the road without having a fuel tax, well, I'm sure the government would love to hear it. They're good at listening to us, right? Anyway, Smacker Man, what were you about to say?
Now I'll go on to the speed limiter stuff.
Yeah.
I like the general idea of a speed limiter. I like because it keeps guys from going excessively fast. There's a lot of different opinions on this. I'll just throw out mine real quick. I think if you're gonna do a mandatory speed limiter, you should probably and do it all across the board. Then you know what? If you can't have technology that reliably changes the speed limit based upon where you are, then turn around and say that you have your speed limited truck to 75. That's a pretty good and still pretty fast speed, especially for a truck, and it will still give you lots of, range and room to be able to pass trucks. Anything other than that, especially with these varying speed limits that they have between trucks and cars, you're going to see a lot of massively, massively bad accidents and a lot more people dying because of it, especially with the way these four-wheelers drive. So that's what I got. I could elaborate for hours on just those two subjects, but I won't do that to you. You have a great day, everybody. You have a great day yourself, Todd, and hopefully I'll actually hear myself on an episode. Thanks. Bye.
Smart ass. Yeah, sorry about that, Smacker Man. We'll be hitting his other 3 comments in later episodes. I'm just gonna, I like my audio comments, so I'll just spread them out. That is, if I remember to put them in there. Yeah, these speed limiters, 75 is probably a good speed. I think what they're talking about right now is like a 68 would be the max, which, that would still separate the 65s from, so everybody's not going 65. And, there will be still companies who decide to, set their trucks at 65 or 63 or, in some rare cases, 55. Yes, there's at least one company I know of out there that goes 55 mile an hour. Oh my God. Can you imagine? But there's still going to be companies that do that for fuel savings, for insurance reasons, for whatever. So there still will be a bit of a split speed limit. But, I agree. In the most part, I don't think there should be a limit on these things, especially for owner operators. They like to use that as an advantage to get drivers who don't want to drive slow trucks. Hey, if the speed limit's 85, you ought to be able to do 85. Although you are correct, in a truck, it's probably not wise to do that. I think I've said before on the podcast, but I'd be interested to know of how many truckers know that most truck tires are rated at about 75 mile an hour. They're really not designed to be going 85. Did I say 85? I meant 75. Truck tires are rated at 75 usually. That's from what I've heard. If you have different knowledge than that, let me know. Send me an email at truckerdump@gmail.com. Well, that'll do it for the feedback segment. I'd like to thank everybody who contributed, including Julio, Driver C, Jerry, Greg T, and of course, Smacker Man. I appreciate anyone that takes the time to listen to this show, but, special props to anyone who would bother to, take the time to send me a photo or send me an email or something like that. I always appreciate it. I know your time, you got other crap to do with your time, right? Not feedback for stupid podcast, but hey, I appreciate it nonetheless. So hey, what do you say we wrap up this episode and I will let you get on with your interesting life. And hey, I really hope all those electric vehicles out there haven't stolen all the electricity, because I gotta have enough electricity to get that guy to plug in his amp, crank up the jams, and get us out of here. So, do you have any thoughts on today's show? Sure, you could always just send me an email to truckerdump@gmail.com telling me that the show sucked today, but it'd be much more helpful if you had any opinions on the news we covered, or you could even send in your own trucking-related story for the next episode, like Michael did. And don't forget, I'd like to hear your stories about hazmat and whether your carrier is bad at it or they're good at it. You can find everything I do, including the Trucker Dump Slack group and Facebook pages, at abouttruckdriving.com. And hey, if you haven't shared the Trucker Dump podcast with your friends yet, please do. As always, I appreciate you sticking with me, even when I get lazy. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way. Trucker Dump, episode 155. Why can't I hear myself? Gotta press that button, you bonehead. Ugh. And thanks for your... Son of a buck! Quit beeping at me. I can't figure out how to shut off the sounds on this. Or you might be allowed 70 if you have certain safety technologies such as adaptive cruise control and automatic engine emergency braking system. Automatic engine. I keep saying engine. Why do I keep saying engine? All right. How about an update on the I-40 bridge in Minnesota? Not Minnesota. Memphis. Ugh. All right. If you remember in the last Trucker Grub segment, we had $50 up for grab. That's if you could figure up for grab. Not for grab. Grabs. So there were only 4 people who actually got all the... And Keith actually wrote me a little email, which, it's kind of I would be reaching out to you in an email to get your address or your PayPal account or however. Okay, now the FMCSA wants to remind you that... Crap, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Ugh.